is sell the sizzle, not the sausage. And what that means really is, when someone asks about Rotary, don't tell them about the club. Don't say, oh, we're great, we meet on a Tuesday night and we're a really fun bunch of people and we have a nice meal and a speaker and everything's great. That's telling them about the sausage. Tell them about the sizzle. Tell them about what it is you do. Tell them about the difference that clubs are making in their communities every single day of the week, because that's the important thing. So it's really getting this across the clubs and letting them know that it's what we do that is going to sell membership to the public. That we need to use joined up thinking. We need to work with the training team. We need to work with the public image team. We need to work with youth, community, international, to push all of these things out there into the public and make it attractive again to be a Rotarian. And you see at the end there, I said, remember the 5 Ps. And this goes right back 35 years ago when I first did some business training. And they used to say that, remember the 5 Ps of marketing. And although a club isn't a business, these are just as relevant. The product, the price, the place, the promotion, and the people. And we have to look at each of these individual aspects for every single club. Look at the product. Is the product they're delivering what the public want, and is it something that's attracting the public to them as a club? Is the price right? Have they really made Rotary affordable and acceptable to everyone in that area? Is the place they meet right? Have they chosen to meet in the most exclusive, poshest hotel in the area, or are they, they happy to meet in somewhere a wee bit more down market and make it accessible to people? Promotion, that's our public image. That's looking at the PI side of things. PI is crucial in all of this, absolutely crucial. Can't really stress enough how important it's going to be. And finally, people. Let's get the people out there. Let's get our people into. I spoke recently to one club who said, all we have in this town is a farmer's market. Well, right, okay, in that case, every Saturday morning at the farmer's market, get yourself a stall, pay the 20 quid or whatever it is, and get out there and speak to people as they go past. Don't look at it as a fundraiser, look at it as an opportunity to tell people about what you do as a club. So the people side of things is very important. But I promise you, if we get these right, people will want to get involved with Rotary again, and that's really what we're here for. So the actions arising from the report, well, the first thing was that the report went to the district support team who discussed the paper, and as you all know, we decided to adopt its recommendations. Currently, I am in the midst of a tour of all clubs to introduce the report. I think I've spoken to about 15 or so already. I don't have them all booked in yet, but the vast majority of clubs now have a date booked over the next couple of months. So far, the reaction to the report has been nothing but positive. It's been fantastic. It's blown me away. I didn't really, certainly expected from some clubs there to be quite a reaction to it that hasn't come. It's been very good. Once that's done, the AGs start to get involved. Now, the AGs have been introduced to this task force report initially already. We will work with the AGs a wee bit more in this to give them further preparations for the visits, because the next thing then will be for the AGs to follow up with their health check visits. One of the important things we need to do now as well is recruit the rest of the membership team. We need to get more people on board, people who can help with new club formation and that sort of thing as well. So I also want to recruit social media experts. As I said, this for me, public images is the key to membership. I've already asked Alistair McNair to work with Peter Much on Rotaract, meeting with them tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some of their initial findings on where we see the future for Rotaract in the district. Again, I'll pass on to them now before tomorrow. The reaction to discussing Rotaract and Rotaract clubs with the clubs I've spoken to so far has generally been very positive. clubs are all keen so far to hear more about Rotaract and how they can use that as a stepping stone to get younger people involved with their clubs. As I said already, we've had some expressions of interest in satellite clubs. I'll follow these up very carefully in the next few weeks. One, I think we're very close to getting a firm decision. They will go ahead with it, and that's quite an exciting one. To kind of end this part of it, there will be 2 or 3 special seminars on Zoom that will be arranged during May or June. And those will just be done as a group invitation to all clubs to send their presidents, their secretary, chair, whoever, so that we can just do a follow-up with where we've got to, what the outstanding feedback has been from clubs, and where we're going to take the plan moving forward. As you know, the DG and the DGN have membership a priority for their training, and I thank them for that, and thank them for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. I've already spoken about the quarterly new member Zoom introductions, an opportunity to introduce district new Rotarians, and those will be put into action fairly soon, hopefully. And finally, Ken has already looked at the new club formation guide provided by Rotary Great Britain Ireland, and we'll look at that again. We'll tweak it to suit our own side of things, and we'll also prepare, as I spoke about, a new club communications plan and get that published as well. So that is really where we're at the moment. I will stop sharing that now. Thank you all very much for listening. That's not bad timing, actually. And happy to take any questions, comments. Yeah, just fire away. Thank you.
David, I think. David, you're on mute. Sandy, I'll get you after David.
Okay.
Okay. Lose 2 points for that one. First word here is continuity. I suspect there's some folk in Rotary clubs who are hoping this message is only with the present district governor. I think a very strong message could be that there is continuity, and this is not just a passing phase. I know, Alistair, you said today to my present club of Aberdeen St Fittics about this is something that's coming to the fore again, because it has to come to the fore again, and it's nothing new. But I think a number of Rotarians just think, if we don't talk about it, it'll go away and we can go back to normal. So I would suggest that there's a strong message which we can all give, that this isn't just the discussion of today, the discussion of March 2021. This is something that the leadership are firmly committed to, and we're all supportive of. So it's not going to go away. Second thing is,
sorry, just to answer that part, I mean, part of the talk I've been giving to clubs, as you know today, is that this is a 3-year plan. This is something, we're not going to turn this around in just 3 months. This is very much a 3-year plan. And Heather and Ken and Jim after that have to, you know, they've all bought into this as well.
I have no doubts about that for the folk who are here. I'm thinking of those who aren't here. I've encountered some of these folk as well. We all have. It's also been my experience that people join Rotary as an organization, but they leave a club. And that's one of our principal weaknesses, which is why I will welcome the arrival of our E-Club of Aberdeen, the District E-Club, as a new means by which I can convey and involve myself and involve others in Rotary. And I did say I would mention it tonight. I think if Alistair's stepping up to look at membership, I think we've got a collective responsibility to step up as well. Securing and retaining membership is integral to what we're all about. Because if we don't, it's what one of my old Open University lecturers used to say, the Roman slave galleries, you could bang the drums, but if you've got no rowers, nothing happens. So we need people who are part of the movement of Rotary, who are prepared to roll their sleeves up. So make a couple of comments there and I've thrown that in for discussion as well.
Thanks. David. Alistair, will I ask Sandy to come in and maybe we could bind it all up, because I'm just conscious of your time. What about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem.
Sandy?
Okay, yeah, just very, very quickly. Alistair, you know, I was caught with a rabbit in the headlights immediately after the, you know, the reduction of this membership report. I've got to say now, the clubs in my area have now calmed down quite a bit, are now discussing between themselves very positive messages about membership, which is actually a good sign. I thought it would be that way. And the other point is, I'm glad you brought the word relevance into your talk there just now, because that's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Rotary must be relevant, not just a club. It's got to be relevant to the community they're in. And that's where I think Rotary has fallen away in certain areas. But that's important, and we'll have to keep stressing that.
Thanks,
That's
Sandy.
fine.
Certainly the couple of your clubs that I've done already, that I've spoken to already, the feedback from them has been absolutely, you know, stupendous.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting.
No, I got it.
I don't know if there was anything from what David was saying as well. I think you answered the continuity point, really, Alistair.
Yeah, it's you know, I think this job is it's not a 3-month job, Heather, and it's, as I keep on saying to people, it's probably ambitious to think we can do it in 3 years. But if the team are all buying into it, and we start things moving in the right direction, and we see some positive results that we can feed back to clubs and say, look, okay, it's not massive, but we're seeing a difference. We're making a difference here. And because the change, as I've been saying to clubs when I've been speaking to them, change has to be managed, it has to be gradual, it has to be, you know, done properly. We can't just suddenly dive in there and say, right, you must throw this out, throw that out, throw the next thing out. It's got to be a gentle process. And clubs are being far more receptive to the idea, possibly, of looking at, for instance, where they quite enjoy their existing wee bubble of having a meal on a Tuesday at lunchtime or something like that. They're also quite receptive to the idea of also having a satellite club that meets on a Saturday morning in a cafe, or a satellite club that meets on a Thursday night on Zoom. So, you know, clubs are not against these ideas. I think it's just about guiding them in the right direction. And it's, you know, we can do that. We have the people and the expertise to do that for them.
As Ken said in the chat, we have the tools. Made me think about, we have the technology. Yeah. Bionic Rotary we want. Fantastic. I'm conscious of your time, Alistair. I'm not subbing you out, but yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair.
Thank you.
We do have some time if there's more questions, and yeah, Heather and I can easily field them if anybody's got anything else. Then looks like,
sorry,
go for it, John.
Can I just say that I think the fact that it's linking this whole thing from the top through everything, through the AGs into the clubs, if that stays as a constant, then life will be so much easier, because it's that communication and being there when a club has an issue, not 4 months down the line when the club hasn't said anything or you haven't been in touch with the club. I think it's important that we're there to support, that we are a support team. So let's support the clubs. It's the clubs that need us to do stuff for them, not the other way around. We're not dictating, it's the other way around. Thank you very much.
And that's absolutely right, John. And one of the things that would be really helpful is with the AGs who all know their clubs, and if you think somebody's in trouble or think somebody's thinking of, well, I'm not going to continue in Rotary, and I'm talking about the club itself. If we'd found out about Isle of Skye a lot earlier, and I know, Sue, you got it landed on you, but if we can identify who those clubs are, what those clubs are, we can actually go in and help them now. And as you say, Alistair's really stepped up and agreed to take on membership going forward. So really pleased to hear that. I know Heather's really pleased to hear that. So we do get that continuity. Anybody, anything else? Then if there's not, just looking through the rest of the agenda, Heather covered at the beginning the kind of topics. We've got really 3 more sessions. The next one is on leading our district, and Heather's going to take us through that. And then we're going to go on to inspiring and motivating, more of that. And then I'll pick up the last one on making it happen and the organization for doing that. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand back to Heather.
Thanks, Ken. I just wanted to check in with everybody. Ken's just run through the sort of running order for this evening. Any queries about any of that? Really hoping, having seen what you're looking to get out of tonight, that we're definitely going to cover off what you're interested in. Does it look like an agenda that's going to get us where we need to go? Everybody feeling pretty confident about that? Great. Okay. Fantastic. So what I wanted to do in this session, just double checking my timing here. What I wanted to do in this session was have a little bit of feedback from the International Assembly. And one of the things that I think it was Ewan said in the chat, just to find out a little bit more about what had happened at the International Assembly, but more specifically, of course, what's the theme that's going to be the context, the framework that we're all going to be working within from Rotary International. And as you'll all know, and hopefully you've had time to both watch the video of Shekhar, which is in the Dropbox, and there's a copy of the actual address that he delivered in there too, because there's some fantastic quotes in there as well. So I think it's a great resource for you in terms of going out and meeting with clubs and club assemblies for the AGs and things as well. But hopefully you've seen that. So my intent is not to go into too much detail about that. But as you know, the theme is serve to change lives. And I think that's really interesting on a number of points. I mean, very much, obviously, we're talking about that whole thing about relevant. And I think Rotary is particularly relevant now. And one of the things that I was thinking about from the International Assembly is I've been talking to John about, the theme for the year and ultimately for the conference. And what I had already made up my mind about was exactly that the theme for the district should be very much about making Rotary relevant. And what's going to make Rotary relevant is very much about service and the impact and the support that we can give to communities, and no more so now than following on from the pandemic. So to have the RI theme there as serving to change lives, which really builds on the whole Rotary focus, the principle of service above self, I think is incredibly relevant and incredibly timely, and something I think which also links back to the points that DG Alistair was making there about membership, that the best way to get people involved is to demonstrate really the difference that we can do. When the incoming RI president Shekhar Mehta was talking about serve to change lives and his thinking about the theme, one of the things he said that really stuck with me, which I wanted to share with you, was service is the rent we pay for the space we take up on this earth. Service is the rent we pay for the space we take up on this earth. And then he paused and said, and I want to be a good tenant. And I thought that was just a really interesting way of looking at things, and I think really resonates with those of us who've made a conscious choice to get involved in Rotary and to be active Rotarians. And so linking to what Alistair was saying as well, really breaking down what we're trying to work towards with the theme is inspiring Rotarians to do more, to grow more. So the more that we do, the more that we're going to make connections, grow partnerships with other organisations, partners, communities, and that will help in terms of growing our membership, which clearly is important. But he also talked about growing more to do more. So expanding our membership also increases our capacity to do more of the things that we're particularly good at as Rotary. In terms of membership, more specifically, the aspiration is to grow global membership from 1.2 million members to 1.3 million members by the 1st of July 2022. And even though it was a virtual International Assembly, I think he could probably hear the sharp intake of breath that ran round the Rotary world at that point. But actually, the global membership's been 1.2 million pounds, 1.2 million pounds members. We've had 1.2 million members for about 20 odd years now. So it's been static, but one of the things that struck me from IA was that some countries are really growing their membership. Rotary's growing exponentially in some countries, and yet it's stagnating or declining in some areas, as it is in our own district and as it is in Rotary Great Britain and Ireland. So it's really growing in some places, not growing in others, and declining. But overall, that's given us a sort of static membership. And breaking that down, essentially with 1.2 million members, the challenge from SHACAR was we should easily be able to get to 1.3 million members. If we've got 1.2 already and each Rotarian brings one person into Rotary, we can easily make that target. And I think that is a really good way of breaking it down. I mean, surely if Rotary is something that we're all really passionate about, which I know that we are, we want to share it, we can at least share it with one person. The trick then is, of course, not taking them into a business meeting. The trick is us all bringing people into Rotary and really showing what Rotary can do. So the other things that the RI president is bringing in for 21-22, and you'll see all of this pulling through in terms of the draft district plan, is Rotary Days of Service, which really is just a fancy term for encouraging collaborative project work and partnership work across groupings of clubs. So we could look at doing something district-wide, we could look at supporting groupings of clubs within areas, across areas, but really getting together so that there's scale of visibility from a public image perspective, but also opportunities to work perhaps on larger projects or with bigger organisations. Again, really showing what we do as Rotary. And the intention is also to have 7 presidential conferences spread throughout the world on each of the areas of focus. 7 now, of course, that they include from the 1st of July 22, environment, and looking to encourage as much participation in these as possible, perhaps going to the one that's closest to us or the one that we're most interested in. And he majored a lot as well on diversity, equity and inclusion, and that is a challenge for us, as we know, in our district as well. In terms of gender and race and background and all aspects of diversity. SHACAR himself majored a lot on empowering girls, which I think in practice is probably more challenging in some countries than it is in others, but clearly ensuring equality of opportunity for girls and not ensuring that they are included and not excluded from education and training and pathways to employment. Perhaps something that's not as big an issue for us, but involving young people and supporting them on these pathways, I think absolutely is, and building on the work that we do already. So that summarises down really into these 4 areas. That really big ongoing focus on ending polio within that serving to change lives theme, tackling COVID, building on a lot of the work that Rotary's already been involved in terms of supporting vaccination, supporting anti-poverty work in communities, all of these things that all our clubs have been involved in around tackling the pandemic. Looking to have projects of scale, larger projects, so could be global projects for us across Great Britain and Ireland, working cross-country. It could be groupings of clubs coming together, partnering on bigger projects, but really focusing on doing perhaps a little bit more about the scale of the impact that we're making in different ways, and of course the growth of the membership to the 1.3 million members. And just a reminder, and I know that you already know this anyway, but clearly that the context for delivering on that theme for 21-22 very much fits and is driven by the Rotary Action Plan, which is still in place, which has the People of Action campaign underpinning it, is about creating lasting change across the globe, communities and ourselves together. And the priorities are still around increasing our impact, expanding our reach, enhancing participant engagement, increasing our ability to adapt. And so this theme really in practice puts a particular emphasis on on some aspects of this, but very much it's about continuing to deliver across these priorities. And the 5 values, which are our core values in Rotary, of course, still valid and relevant: fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership. So I'm going to just pause for questions just for a moment before I sort of start to share some of the thinking about how we might pull that into the district plan. Also, I can't read the chat and present at the same time, and I'm too nosy. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they want to make just now? Yep, go for it, Sandy.
Yeah, just a quick question that arose at one of the meetings. Is there any way that Rotary could, in fact, maybe spend quite a bit and find out what the public really want out of Rotary? I mean, it's all what we think they want, but if we actually ask what they want, that's a favourite thing in business. Ask what your customers want, and maybe get an idea of where we're perhaps getting it right or getting it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely. Well, Ken looks like he has the answer. I think it's absolutely a fair point. I think the bigger challenge that we've got is people don't know what they don't know. So if we're asking them what they want from Rotary and they're still saying what's Rotary.
Well, and there's the first answer.
Well, indeed. Ken, did you want to come in?
Yeah, you make a very good point. I've actually put something about it in the chat as well just now. In the latest membership newsletter from Britain and Ireland, they actually talk about turning the whole lens round and asking the public, what should Rotary look and feel like?
Yeah.
And then make the product look and feel like that. And it's quite interesting because Leven just did that. They invited 2 complete outsiders into their meeting and then asked them for their opinion after. They didn't like the answer, but they're going to do something about it. And the fact they're doing something about it's important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it's a bit like you say, it's the same in business. You know, it's like these walking in the shoes of things. We're needing to do a bit more of that, I think, at district and at club levels. Like you say, bring people in, but don't just bring them in to try and get them involved in Rotary. Take the feedback, ask your speakers, ask your organisations that you're giving funding to, you know, what their feedback is, you know, where we're doing well, where we could improve. I think that's absolutely right. Yep, and a good plug for the article in the membership newsletter. I don't know who wrote that, but I hear it's excellent, Ken. I think it was somebody. Was it somebody called Ken, perhaps? Can't believe you just plugged your own article. Can't believe it's just like shameless. But it is a good article, so do read it. Yeah, the new members. Yeah, before they join and after. Yeah, exit surveys and so on. People what they want. Yeah, you can read that in the chat from Kath. That's so right. We shouldn't assume. We should never assume. What is that saying? Assume makes an ass out of you and me. That's the old adage, isn't it? Yeah. Anything else just now, folks? No, we okay? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. We can see some real connections between what we're trying to do in district around membership, what Shekar's bringing forward as his priorities, what the bit of work that I really want us to do together, and I genuinely want us to do together. I'm a great believer in pulling something together as a bit of a straw document, a straw man, I used to call it. I don't know if that's appropriate. But to start with something that people can then get involved in and comment on, and we can sort of push backwards and forwards between us, I think is often an awful lot easier than just a blank sheet of paper. So you'll see in the Dropbox that we pulled together a summary strategic plan for the district that starts to pull through what we think. So Ken and I have been working on it. Jim, some of you have already, you know, we've talked about some of it already, and your feedback to date coming through. But what I really want to do now between now and the 6th and on the 6th is refine a version of this plan that we are all comfortable and all buy into, and taking it out to President-elect and starting to share this as our vision, as our strategy for what we want to do, not just for 2021-22, but over the next 3 years. So it can be refined for the theme that comes up every year. But the Rotary Action Plan is in place in the longer term, and so can our response to that within District B and how we take things forward. So you've seen this already, so I'm just going to rattle through it very quickly. But you can see that under increase our impact in terms of that broad area of the action plan, I'm pulling into the district plan suggestion around doing the Rotary Day of Service and supporting that. Doing something and thinking about how we can work with clubs to really get clubs engaged in the environment area of focus, with some really good ideas coming through in the forum actually on Monday evening about this. And I know Malcolm Rooney's got lots of ideas, and we've got some discussions ongoing with Keep Scotland Beautiful as well. Definitely want to keep the momentum up around giving to foundation, encouraging clubs to give to foundation, and also around End Polio Now, and taking the opportunity that we've got to access global grants more, to get that delivering more money back into the district, and also keeping visibility up around ending polio. Getting a little bit better at making sure that we do know whether we are making progress against what's important to us. Clearly, we want to know that the actions that we're taking in relation to the membership task force are having the results that we want. I'm suggesting I would like to look with you at a different approach to the district awards. So what we're rewarding are the responses of clubs to the current priorities and challenges that we're facing within the district and within Rotary. I really like that each one bring one concept. I think it's something we could really get behind. I'm pulling it through into the district plan, and it would be great to reward clubs, or to think about how we could recognise clubs who successfully apply that. Again, on that My Rotary moment, I'll just pick different things out here. My thinking there is that, you know, we all know, we all have a Rotary moment that really speaks to us and inspires us and keeps us involved. And sometimes we're not as good as we could be about giving that gift of Rotary to other people. The best way for us to get others involved and engaged with Rotary, and for people to understand better what Rotary is to just have those little stories. People buy into people, and people buy into stories. They want to know what the human angle of these things are. We're our own human angle, and I think we could get out there and use what is a really interactive or a social media friendly, mechanism through video to encourage more interest and take up in Rotary. Also very keen to start new Rotaract clubs, to increase the membership of Rotaract, to get closer working between Rotary and Rotaract across the district, and to all of us have got huge skills, knowledge and experience to bring to the table as Rotarians and as Rotaractors, and we all bring different strengths and things, and we know we've got an issue about getting young people more involved in Rotary. We know that we would benefit from more Rotaract clubs, and I think there are other ways where we can be working together more closely. One of the greatest successes, I think, of the International Assembly was that in every breakout session that you went into, there was a Rotaractor, and each one without exception made amazing contributions, and the debate and discussion was an awful lot richer for it, and I would like us to get that benefit at district level as well. I'm also suggesting, because business, I think, has been impacted so heavily by the pandemic, that we might want to think about links with the chambers, how we support businesses. And also, we're talking about Ask the Public. There's actually some really good tools available in Rotary already, like the Community Needs Assessment tool, which I've also popped into the Dropbox, about just, you know, if you're not sure, you know, what might work in your community, ask the people in the community, but also tools like that can be quite useful. I think as well, so in my view, we could be doing more to take Rotary out, instead of coming up necessarily with things which are driven from clubs or driven from Rotary, and then trying to sell that, is to go out and actually see what project ideas are already out there, what communities are already interested in, and bring what Rotary can bring to that table. I think that's also a really effective way to grow Rotary, as well as increase our impact. And we talked about a district e-club. And one of the things I think that we need to increase our knowledge about and get clubs to think about a little bit more imaginatively around that, sort of creating new channels into Rotary and making it as inclusive as possible, is just to be a little bit more flexible about what Rotary looks like and what Rotary can look like. And so there are a whole range of options available now, and perhaps others that we haven't even thought about, that others will come up with because it suits the needs of their community. And I've popped a copy of the community assessment tool in the Dropbox, maybe something that's a useful resource for you guys and potentially for the conversations that you're going out to have with clubs. Yeah, I mean, we had was it 116th birthday yesterday, I think, for Rotary. Clearly, it has a birthday every year. And utilising different campaign opportunities. But the whole thing about the district plan is, for me, it's about things that district can do that can add value to clubs. And the plan needs to be involved by what clubs need from us. And so this is a starter for 10, for you to give feedback about how you think that's going to land, and then for clubs to see whether that's going to help them. But there are things, I think, that are things that district can do, that because we are a district and we're at that scale. So things like campaigns, things around public image, there's something which we could pilot, for example, within the district, which we can talk about more at another stage, around many grants for young people, this Seeds for Change project, which is coming around in the UK. And Shekhar talked about having project fairs, you know, where we bring together lots of examples of what it is that we're doing, lots of clubs getting involved, great public image opportunity, great idea to find project partners, really good way to just make Rotary more visible and accessible again. And we talked about the each one, bring one already, and things that we can do just to make materials available that encourage clubs to think differently about what they're doing. And we talked at the beginning there, Julian was talking about some of the challenges around Rotary Club Central. In terms of role modelling things, we need to be using it. We need to be using it to do our respective jobs, but we need to be using it so that we're familiar with it and we can support others to use it. It's not about using it for the sake of it. It's actually because it cuts down on a lot of the paperwork and the bureaucracy. It means that we are better informed about what clubs are doing. Clubs get better recognition for what they're doing. It's been made out, I think, to be something that's probably been made out to be more complicated than it actually is. So please, you know, that's something that I think could really make a difference if we can encourage better use of Rotary Club Central. And I've popped a guide in the Dropbox as well about it. So strategic planning. So what, you may be asking? Haha, you probably are by now. So what essentially I've popped in the Dropbox and given you a bit of a whistle stop tour through there is an initial draft. What I really want to do now is to develop that, own it with you, start testing it with clubs, review and refine it, as I've said. The other document that's in the Dropbox is an action plan that takes the strategic plan as it is, and it can be defined. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later. We're trying to get a basis for a 3-year strategic plan, but also get your input into how we would measure progress, which elements of that would be for each of us as individual members of the district team to lead, whose support would we need? Because the idea is that as we go forward in 21-22 Rotary year, within the district team, we will be using the strategic plan, that action plan. That's what we'll be focusing on. How are we doing against the things that we said were the most important? Because that's our job, to deliver on the priorities that we've agreed with the clubs. And of course, we'll get a version of that we are content with some measures of success and progress that we can then talk further about at the PETS training with the presidents-elect, and then ultimately share with the membership at the district assembly on the 25th of April. So again, I'll open it up for some questions, and then I would suggest we have a little break. Questions or comments, please? I can't see you. So we've gone through that really quickly, but that's because the document is already there and has been out there for you. I mean, in terms of, oh, Cass, sorry, I didn't see your electronic hand.
I think I inadvertently took it down when I was trying to raise my hand. Just obviously you crafted the district plan before you heard Sheikh Ameta speaking and talking about this everyone bring one. How are we going to join up the dots between that and our own task force work? I'm concerned that perhaps clubs see a confusion there where we're talking about everyone bring one, and on the other hand, we're saying, and we'll start new clubs. So how do we join it up?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I mean, I'd be interested in what others think as well. I don't see them as being mutually exclusive. I think that what we need are, for those who are in clubs and are existing Rotarians, we do need them to be bringing Rotarians to the clubs that they've got. I think we're also recognising, and what's getting confirmed by the task force report, is that we are not offering the range of Rotary experiences that are going to get us the range of people that we want to get involved in Rotary. So growing Rotary and growing new clubs, as well as growing membership in existing clubs and working on retaining those members that we get. I do think those sit very well together, Cass. I think it's a really good question, though, because what we need to test when we get to a point where we've got a plan that we're content with collectively is the messaging around all of that, isn't it? So that we're not using language that seems to be contradictory and that we're all clear ourselves. What, do others think that might be a bit confusing or have thoughts around that before I bring David in? Libby, did you want to come on to the point that Cass raised? Yeah.
Yes, please. I floated some of these ideas over the last couple of weeks with my club. And interestingly, the one about each one bring one brought up an issue. And the point was, well, if the average age is 72 and we all bring somebody along, then we're just bringing in a lot of older members. And the other thing was that, and I think this person always has had his ear to the ground in a few things that have been going on just now. It seems to be that it's all about new clubs. But the impression when he was speaking, I got was, well, that's fine. It's all about new clubs. So we can sit back. We don't have to do very much. And we'll let all these young folk get on with making and, drawing up new clubs. And it was just perspectives that I hadn't really thought of, because, for example, somebody mentioned it a few minutes ago, but we had a speaker recently, and I was chatting to her on WhatsApp after she spoke to us, because she was really dynamic and she made us laugh and our feet were on the ground, and it was really refreshing. And she was really keen. I could not believe how keen. So I kept chatting with her. And now she's asking me after last night, she says, oh, I went off that meeting and I was buzzing. I thought it was a bit of a tricky meeting myself, but she thought it was buzzing. And she's dead keen to join and wants me to send her all sorts of stuff. So I've sent her 1010 Vision, I've sent her the magazine. And I think if you can really catch somebody like that who's enthusiastic and not let any time pass, then it's really positive. And I thought, well, okay, I'm 63, but she was only 52. So if it applies, then I could count that tick. I brought one, but she's much younger. But it wasn't so much the strap line, it was the fact that what worried me was the way it was being perceived. That, well, that doesn't apply to us really, because we'll just be bringing more oldies. Or let's not worry, new clubs are going to start everywhere. And I don't want to hog it, but can I just bring one other thing up? I was listening to something else. They were talking about, all these things that are going on around the world, things that mentioned tonight. But let's not forget, it's a humanitarian organisation. It's about people. But from what I'm reading and hearing as well, it seems to be, I think, the most important thing for young people is a cause. And when you read, one of our members brought up the End Plastic Soup in the recent magazine, which is really inspiring. And I think so many people would get behind it. But then my I suppose you're saying what was a fear. My fear might be then, if we're really engaging on a theme like end plastic soup, then are we becoming very causal, and will other things fall by the wayside? So I suppose, you know, when you start to read and think and prepare, then there's a million things go through your head. But it was just a range of different perspectives that came up last night at our meeting, which really made me think. Thanks.
Thanks, Libby. I think those are really interesting contributions. And I think it is that whole thing about be open-minded as possible about it all, don't we? That's what ensues other people as well. David.
Right, thank you. We need a strategic plan, and there are many places where I would argue that we need a business plan as well. But I'm going to pick up on a key word I think Libby's introduced. We just need some perspective here. If we consider what we want to do, and there's a hell of a lot, we have to pace ourselves. District Assembly is just 6-7 weeks away, and it's a lot of ground we want to cover. So why don't we just be clear that we might just need to initially limit some of the things we aim to do, but we've got maybe just an initial tighter focus. There are 7 areas of focus. Maybe we pick on 3. I'd be suggesting environment would be one of them. Maybe that's not surprising, but at least not try to put everything forward, but just get a few started just to get the message across. And I think Alistair makes a very good point all the way through. Maybe we're not just trying to get membership, we're just trying to build a profile and get some influence and have activities that folk will say, hey, look at what those guys are doing. I want to know more about them. And then you've got the start of a dialogue. Then you can say, why don't you come in and really get involved? But building influence, building the profile, I think is what we need to achieve in the next 6 to 7 weeks if we're going to take the vast majority of the clubs with us. So putting that forward, because we need these discussions to work out who is doing what, when, and by when.
Absolutely. And so we'll come on to that towards the end of the evening, but the reason that what I've done is turn it into an action plan is so that each of us and all of you and all of us can go away and actually do exactly that. Are we biting off more than we can chew? Do we want to put the emphasis on particular areas rather than others? Also bring your own expertise. So in terms of your team leader expertise, this is a starter for 10, but we haven't yet had this conversation. You may look at what I've got there where I'm suggesting that that's things that might work for international or might work for community and think, actually, I've got better ideas than that. I've got different ideas than that. Here's what they are. Here's why, or that's not for me to lead on, or whatever it is, that's our opportunity. It is 6 to 7 weeks, which actually I don't think is a particularly short period of time. I'm probably more worried about the other point that you're making, David, which is that we don't bite off more than we can chew within the coming rotary year and the subsequent 2, which is the whole period that we're trying to pull a strategy together for. All I would say is, I mean, this is not my plan. It needs to be our plan. I just think it's easier to put something out there. And so it wasn't a case that we were going to write it or rewrite it tonight. I'm trying to just give you a little bit of context, and then I'm going to ask for so I'm going to give you a little bit of context, and I'm going to trade that for a lot of help between now and the 6th of March, on the 6th of March, and going forward. So, be as brutal as you like. I am asking you for your ideas and your opinions and to bring your expertise. And that's the task going forward from tonight. And hopefully that context has helped you to go away and do that.
And Heather, sorry, doing the first draft is always the hardest. It's the person who starts with a blank piece of paper who has the hardest job. Then they share it and everybody goes, oh, do you really mean that? Oh, you forgot this.
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
you've got the dialogue started. So thanks for that.
It's gone through an iteration already, I think, because I think when Ken and I had a first go, it looked completely different. And we probably were kind of including everything in the kitchen sink. And we did get some feedback from that, from the AGs, from different clubs in Sandy's area, for example, and from some of you already. And so, we have already started the process. Anyway, I'm sure you would all love a cuppa and a wee comfort break. Yes, and being mercenary, kind of looking for making myself popular by giving you a break. suggesting a break. Let me just check my timeline. Can we come back? Can we come back? It's a few minutes before 8. Could we just have quite a short break and come back at 5 past? Would that be sufficient? 7 minutes? Brilliant. Thank you. See you in a bit.
Done.
Thanks. Thank you. Sorry about that. So I appreciate that we've all got, you know, been on different journeys in terms of our kind of leadership experience, management experience, and so on. I think there's a leadership conversation that's worth having, specific to the roles that we've got in the team that we're trying to build in the district. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to do that just now as well. And but I thought I'd start with a pop quiz because you've just come back from your coffee. So there's no points, there's no prizes, but somebody gets the glory for guessing who wrote this.
Bob Dylan, the times they are changing.
There you go. Quick as a flash, eh? Quick as a flash. And I suppose when you think about leadership in Rotary and leadership in the district at this moment in time, the one thing that's absolutely clear is that we will be leading through changing times, and even just the conversations that we've had around how we would apply the theme, what's going into the district plan, what DG Alistair was talking about in terms of the membership actions from the task force report that we've signed up to as well. And I suppose in short for me, our big job as leaders for Rotary, as leaders for Rotary in the district, is to work our way through the district plan and the discussion that we're having so that we can go out. You know, you said in the chat at the beginning about communication being really important amongst ourselves, but also somebody definitely put in the chat before about how we get the messages out, how we're clear about the priorities, how the priorities fit what clubs want and need, but also how we're going to take those priorities forward. So clearly a big part of our job is we're leading through change, but we are leading and getting that clarity about where we're going and why it's important, and the fact that it reflects what people are telling us that they need. The other thing I'm really keen to get help from over the next period is, I think we would all agree, and argue with me, feel free, but I think we would all agree that there's probably something that we could do, or more we could do, to get a better working relationship and a better sort of shared understanding between the district team and clubs, so that clubs genuinely feel that we are, as a district team, there to support what they're doing, there to provide resources, advice and support to what they're doing, to agree a framework that, you know, we can all work to in the district that meets local needs, but also reflects that we're all part of that wider Rotary family. So I think we've all got a role to play in that individually and collectively, and setting out a direction, a compelling sort of direction of travel that people can really get behind. And you'll be thinking, what the heck is she on? But I was reading this book a couple of days ago, and it reminded me of the story of JFK. You know how sometimes we talk about setting up new Rotary clubs and people look at us like we've kind of got 3 heads. You know, why would you want to do this? There's a perfectly good, Rotary experience over here. And we know that's not the case, but we also know that a lot of what the clubs that we've got have huge strengths and will continue to be active and make a contribution. So I was thinking, it's not rocket science, is it? I mean, when JFK stood up and said after Yuri Gagarin went round the orbit of the moon, that America would put a man on the moon and get him back safely, Dwight Eisenhower, who was the president before him and sitting in the Oval Office before him, thought he was off his head. And nobody would even have thought that that was possible. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that some of the changes that we're trying to make in Rotary are as difficult and complex as putting a man on the moon, but you can see the public weren't even behind that vision. You know, so what actually made it deliverable, what made it a world superpower, was that he laid that vision out, and he got people who could really positively help him deliver that vision. And I guess that's my ask of you going into the next Rotary year, and of you in terms of working with clubs to make some of the changes that we want, and for people to see the positivity about some of the changes that we're trying to make, particularly in the context of membership, for example. What I do think sometimes that we get wrong, though, is that we rubbish what we've got and what we've had. And so I think that there are ways where we can respect where we've been, respect those clubs where they are being inclusive, and they are very active as Rotary clubs. They want to do things in a particular way, great. But those clubs then can't have the monopoly on Rotary in their area if we know there are others out there who would want a Rotary experience, but not that one. It's a bit like the each one, bring one. You know, bring somebody to your club who you think would be a great fit. Bring somebody else to Rotary and signpost them to a club, or introduce them to a club that might better fit what they're looking for. And if none of that exists, let's create something else. But we can do that in a way that respects where we've been, but still gets our energy up and our positivity about a future that we can create for Rotary, where we really share that gift of Rotary that we love and that we're so passionate about. And I think presenting it like that is liable to get the support that we need from club leaders and from other Rotarians. And it is tricky stuff, because at the end of the day, this is my statement of the blindingly obvious for this evening. You know, leading and leading change is all about people. Of course it is. And where you've got people, you've got behaviours. And some of the behaviours that we get and we come across in Rotary are not necessarily those that we would want. The challenge that we've got from a leadership perspective, I think as a leadership team, is that we have to accept that, you know, leaders create the environment, and it's the environment that gives rise to the behaviours that we get from people, and it's the behaviours that give us the results. So the tough thing in there for us is that if we're not getting the results that we want, it means we're not getting the behaviours that we need, which probably means that we've got more work to do about creating an environment that encourages more of those behaviours and more of the results that we want. And that's the challenge, I think, that lies ahead for us in leading Rotary in the district. So big challenge is creating the right environment, leading by example, embodying the Rotary that we all believe could be there, should be there, can be there, and being positive about the changes that are ahead, being positive about what Rotary already contributes and what clubs and districts are doing. I'm going to just play you this little video, and then I'm going to speak to you about it. It's literally 2 minutes long. You can't, can you hear that? No.
No sound, no vision.
It's not shared yet, Heather. If it opens in a separate screen, you might need to switch the share, Heather.
What's that, sorry?
If it opens in a second screen, you might need to switch what's being shared.
Oh yeah, I just won't. I don't think. I just think I'll not bother. That's what I think. Because I'm running out. We'll just we'll run out of time. Let me stop sharing that. And oh, I see what you mean when it opens in the. I tried it earlier. It worked fine. But listen, don't worry about it. We shall move on. Can you hear me? Yes, back to normal. Normal services resumed. So yeah, so the other thing that I was thinking, what I really wanted to show you was just the Simon Sinek thing. You can go and look at it yourself, but basically I think we overcomplicate our message sometimes. It's about start with why. It's like, you know, we don't want to be describing Rotary as the fact that, again, like Alistair said earlier, that we sit down and we have lunch and here's our business meeting and this is it and it's the what. It's actually the why. Why are we involved? Because it's something that we really care about. Why do we care? Because we've helped, you know, we're helping to end polio, all of the things that we know about, because we're making a huge impact in our local communities. So that's really important, knowing our why, talking to other people about our why, getting people re-energized and engaged about Rotary. And our actions have actually got to match our words. We've got to be kind of walking the talk. So people do look at our actions more than they will listen to what we say, but our actions have got to be consistent with what we're saying. And I guess, and David was talking about this a little while ago, we don't want to be over-promising and under-delivering. If we say that we're going to do something individually or collectively as a district team, we need to do it and we need to follow through. And that's the aspirations that I've got for us. And actually doing what we and only we can do. Our job's not here to do jobs for the clubs and vice versa. It's about where do we actually add value We don't need to be doing each other's jobs. We've all got individual roles which are defined and increasingly defined, and that's the work that we've been doing on roles and responsibilities. And it's within that framework that we can really take things forward, make a difference. So focusing on what we and only we can do. And what we want to be more than the sum of our parts as a district team as well, and really kind of add value and doing the tough stuff, because sometimes we do shy away from that, don't we? I suspect, in fact, I know that some of the conversations that we will have to have, maybe with each other, a bit more likely when we're out talking to clubs and talking to them about some of the things that we're trying to achieve, supporting them or challenging them with some of the things that they're doing or thinking about, the club health check things, for example. There is a bit of doing the tough stuff, having the difficult conversations, and there'll be lots of support, you know, from all of us to each other, and through training and development or whatever other support that you need, that we need to do the tough stuff as well. Because at the end of the day, this is not the kind of district leadership that we're looking for. This is not the impact that we want to be having on Rotarians. We want people to be clear on the direction that we're going in and bought in to the direction that we're going as well. And certainly, it's not our job to go out there and be telling people that, you know, it's all a terrible world. We want to be going out there with positive energy, a clear idea about the direction that we're going in, and getting people to buy into that. Nobody wants Private Fraser as a leader. You know, remember him, Dad's Army, we're all doomed. We're all doomed. That's not what we want. Okay, so what could leading effectively look like for the team? Some ideas, some thoughts from me. Definitely, we are all individually and collectively, we need to get to know our clubs. So that's about listening, asking questions, getting as much information and intel as you can about what clubs are up to, what clubs need from us, and bringing that back into the district team and making sure that your own particular role is informed by that engagement with clubs. I really would like to be working together to improve that relationship, that understanding with clubs. Certainly sharing the district priorities, continuing to have that discussion, getting to a district plan and a version of that we can share and share clearly and consistently is really important. Making sure that we are doing the right things that will make a difference for clubs. And bringing what we have by way of skills, knowledge and experience to the district support team table. Bringing what you know, what you can contribute, what you can add value to, and being confident and comfortable to do that. All ideas and suggestions and challenges are welcome. We will be more successful as a district leadership team if we're all open and honest about that and readily offer the skills, knowledge and experience that we've got. People want to see us as well. You know, if we can drop into things like the forum, if we can be going out and meeting regularly with clubs, that's certainly my intention. And yeah, communication came up in the chat right away. So be expecting the assistant governors to be meeting regularly with the club presidents, the team leaders to be meeting regularly with those who are leading on their area of work within clubs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later and on the 6th of March as well, about practicalities. Help clubs to understand what's going on in the district, what's going on more widely in RI and Rotary GB and I, encouraging that cross-club engagement and working, so we're not getting clubs working so much in isolation. We get that sharing of ideas and learning and working to deliver on our growth and development ambitions around membership and sharing ideas. And we're able to do that more the more we're out and about and hearing what's happening. So I guess the final thing is that I know it's a really challenging time that we're leading through just now for all of the obvious reasons that I don't have to state. Picture paints 1,000 words. But the other thing that's become clear is that relevance of Rotary has never been greater, has it? The whole pandemic, I think, has thrown into the leaf the difference that we really can make when the chips are down and continue to make. And it's also brought huge opportunities. Using technology, using Zoom, the attendance that we get for meetings that we just never have got if people had to travel distances, etc. The technology that clubs can apply so they connect to the difference, to the projects in India that they're supporting, to projects in other towns and cities across the world, engaging with people who are benefiting from their money, but also seeing the difference that their service makes and the impact that they're having. That's what technology also brings, that connectedness. Of course, there is another view on Zoom. But at the end of the day, I think used wisely and used properly, technology is definitely, it's not the be all and end all. Face to face will come. Other ways of doing Rotary and being a Rotarian will come, and they will come back. But technology is here to stay, and I think for the better. So, guys, any questions? Over to you.
Kath has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Heather, for that. I suppose what I want to say is that you mentioned a couple of times challenging issues with clubs. And I suppose that we all need to remember that in the end, as long as they adhere to the Constitution, which I can put a copy of into the Dropbox, clubs are autonomous.
Absolutely.
So our leadership challenge, I think, is facilitation.
Yeah.
If anybody has challenging conversations, it's probably me when I tell clubs to go and read the Constitution. But the rest of the time, it's facilitation and support that I think that we need to give them. And there will be times when clubs will do things that we don't like them doing, but if it's not against the rules, we just have to stole it. I think that's our challenge as well, actually.
Yeah. I think that's really helpful, and if that didn't come across as strongly as it should have done, or it might have done, then that's certainly my view. That's when I'm talking about clubs' needs and how we can support clubs. Absolutely, that's the focus. That's our whole job, isn't it? As a district team, is to support and advise clubs and to facilitate them and doing what's relevant to local communities. Absolutely, thank you, Kath.
Sorry, could I just give you my today's Rotary moment?
Oh, go on then. I'm recording, so this could be your 2-minute video.
Yeah. Today's Rotary moment, I haven't seen it in person because we can't go out very much just now, but earlier on today, a huge porta cabin was lifted over by a crane into a yard in Dalgety Bay, which is where our club clothing bank is going to be residing from here on in. And I have to say, I'll pop the photographs to you because it's actually quite amazing just watching a crane with a huge porta cabin at the end of it. So that was quite an achievement. And it's a strange Rotary moment in many ways, but it just shows you know, how different it can be to experience some joy.
I think that's a great thing to share, and thanks for sharing it. You know, you will have to make that your Rotary moment now, so you should have been out there filming with your phone so you could play the shots in the background. Thanks, Kath. Thank you. I've got a few hands up. Let me have a wee look. David Fryer.
Thank you. Two things. I'm a child of the 50s, so I'm of the space age. I was 10 years old when I remember Kennedy gave that speech because it was on the TV. And my dad said to me, he said, that's really important, what he's saying there. Later on, I learnt more about that. And one of the stories I read was that Kennedy had a delegation of scientists, quite eminent scientists, who came to him afterwards and said, you realize it can't be done. That's poignant here for us because they said things like, well, we don't understand the guidance systems. We don't understand what the environment will be. And they came out with a whole list of things. But Kennedy was the sort of person who listened, but then said, well, look, we've got time to work these things through and put it right, but we mustn't lose sight of the overall goal. And that's how we turn things around. The other thing about challenges, we are looking to challenge some behaviors or quite a number of behaviors in clubs. It's open to clubs to challenge us back and bring different people into the district. But I think if we just keep that in mind, it will help our resolve that we've got a good, solid, clear message going forward. And that, I think, makes the difference. We're not talking about how Rotary was 50 years ago, we're talking about the next 50 years. I won't see it, but we can make a start on it. And that's the other thing Kennedy said.
Very unselfish of you. Well, I mean, that's the sad thing, isn't it? Kennedy didn't live to see the man on the moon.
But when asked about giant redwoods, he asked one of the foresters, how long does it take for that to grow? And he was told 100 years. He said, well, we'd better get started now if we want to see them grow that tall. So we need a few things that we can get started on. We won't get the full height growth, but we can get growth started.
I love
Otherwise,
that. Let's get growth started.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes. So let's, between tonight and next time, maybe, and it's a challenge for me as well, let's see what we can bring back that we can start to achieve, start to show that we're on the journey.
Thank you. Thanks, David. That's amazing. Brian, no pressure after the whole redwood analogy thing, but you're on.
Well, I was going to do a redwood analogy. I think there's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now, something like that. But in terms of Cass' point, clubs are autonomous, and in terms of our use of time and energy with clubs, I think there's going to be a kind of pragmatic line to take, that with clubs that are listening and are developing and you can help, and I can think of one already, we might say, well, actually, I'll keep talking to them, but really, in terms of the return in that club, time's better spent elsewhere, which might be harsh, might be too pragmatic, but is that a judgment to be made?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Let's get some reaction.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of nodding. That's the trouble with Zoom, isn't it? Nodding doesn't really give you a sense of things, but nodding's good. Nodding's good. Did I see any other hands up? I haven't missed anybody, have I? Oh, Bill. Would you like to come in?
That's better. Trying to unmute myself. I think I was just thinking on, Libby, you said earlier that potential members maybe want a cause to make them join. And of course, as Cass said, clubs are autonomous. And I think personally that the strength of Rotary in relation to foundation is that clubs can pick and choose from a basket of 7 themes where they can decide to put their efforts. But just to remind you that district could also do that on behalf of clubs in the district if we felt we needed to find something that would bring clubs at a district level together. There's be nothing to stop a district having a foundation grant, for example, and bringing all clubs in the district together, and that might give us some sort of cause potential. There you are. Just a thought.
It's a brilliant thought. Brilliant thought. Ewan, you're waving at me.
Yes. This following up on a practicality of bring another person along to Rotary. And obviously it's great to bring someone to your club because you can help them along and bring things of relevance. But actually the timing of your club meeting or some practicality like that might not be the best time for them. So you perhaps, and obviously the AGs will have knowledge of clubs that meet at other times, morning, lunchtime, evening, different days of the week. So although it's great to bring someone to your club, don't just keep the blinkers on.
Yeah, that's right. You could be signposting people to other clubs or opportunities, and yeah, absolutely. Sandy, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. Yeah, I agree clubs are autonomous, but I also would suggest that in fact clubs have got to start looking at working together in joint projects. For example, Perth worked together, the 3 clubs there, and very successfully. And we're thinking the Forth Valley of maybe 4 clubs there getting together, as we've done already with one project. Was very successful, so we've not to miss out on that. The joint working together, which is critical as far as I'm concerned, and raising large amounts through foundation. and also increasing our, you might say, image throughout that area. I think it's most important.
Thanks, Andy. That's for now. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, sorry, Brian, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, it's picking up in Sandy's point, the sharing. I mean, one of the curses, I think, is the emails that come flying in, from all directions. And, we've been encouraging clubs to share, but you don't want that to lead to kind of hundreds of extra emails all the time. What we've done, the Dundee clubs, where we've got our speakers, chairs, talking to each other and sharing, details or whatever. And what you've done with the Dropbox for district is fantastic. Instead of hundreds of emails, it's all sitting there. Everybody knows where it is. And that's the latest version of it. You don't have to find the email and find where you stored the attachment. Is there anything we could set up for districts and clubs has anybody got an easy solution other than asking them just to email each other about whatever they're doing all the time?
Well, I know Kath and I had a very passing kind of email exchange about whether it's something that we could do for the district support team. So that's a possibility. One of the things I'd really like to do in the 6th of March session is to focus much more in on the practicalities. So let me have a wee think about that between then and now, because Dropbox is available for everybody, but it's probably quite a good idea to have some kind of protocols. Don't mind to sound very controlling, but protocols that mean that we get the best use out of it without it getting becoming as problematic as email was, which is the danger of these things as well. So I'll hold that thought. I've taken a wee note. Thanks, Brian. I'd like to move on now. I didn't want to cut down the conversation. Thought I'd rather cut down Ken's bit instead. So you have got plenty of time, because we've got time built in at the end. I've got Kath is in the middle of my screen. She's given me that whole death stare. I've got a cup of tea brewing for 9 o'clock and get on with it. So Ken, you're on.
Okay, will you put up the share the screen, and will you move the slides forward for me? Excellent. So I'm going to cover really on our organization, and I think a lot of you have seen the organization, but also wanted to cover a couple of other bits on what's happening more around Britain and Ireland as well. So if we can just flip the slides forward. One of the things there's a lot of confusion around is the titles, and this is classed as district officer training. Technically within RI, the district officers are these people here. So it's assistant governors, the district governor team of governor, governor-elect, governor nominee, and the immediate past. I've left an arrow off of him for some reason. Didn't mean to. And of course, the treasurer and the secretary. So that's a district officer as defined by RI. And if we move forward one slide, the continuity group, and Heather, myself, and Jim particularly, and Kath indeed, have all been working on what's come through tonight. And what we're seeing is not a one-year plan, but effectively a 3-year plan. And everything we discuss at the continuity group, which of course can't make any decisions because that goes to council, but that's making sure there is continuity in district, and it's not just for 1 year, it's for several years. And one of the things we've pulled in here, and we've heard already tonight about Rotaract, that Rotaract should also sit into the district executive, and we've called it the executive as to what it is. And that's showing the importance of growing Rotaract. And Peter, is Peter still here? I never noticed if he's still here. Good. We've also taken the step of putting a mentor in with Rotaract, as well as having Peter as the Rotaract person for developing it. And Alistair McNair's agreed to pick up that going forward. And that just shows the importance of Rotaract for us. One of the things I would encourage at the AGs at your president's meeting is, if there's a Rotaract club in your area, invite them along. It's something we set up in Area 4 particularly, and invited, so the Aberdeen area, and invited the local Rotaract president to be a fundamental part of the area president's team. So that was important. And then the next part, looking forward again, Heather, thank you, was the teams underneath it. The reason for putting things in different colors, the blue ones are the ones that RI mandate we should have. And then obviously the ones that help make the whole thing work with youth and community and international are important. So we put somebody in there. One of the things looking at this, it wasn't clear for everybody what each team looked at. So we've tried to put that in here. And if it's wrong, we'll change it. But it's been round a few times on this one. This is about Rev 6 of us working with it. So if you just move it forward again, Heather, one more. So this is really the district support team, is everybody in here. One of the things that's been very clear over the last while was, how do we gather everybody together rather than 4 times a year at any, as we've had district support team meetings. So one of the things we've been setting up, and is certainly run, I think 4 times now, is the assistant governors get together, and Heather as DGE leads that. And really it's what's happening between them, what information do you need, how are things working, what can we do to help? And that I think's been relatively useful, but I'll leave the AGs to feedback and tell me if that's right or not. And we've just started, no, come back again. One of the big things in there was the team leaders hadn't been done, and until we got this set, we didn't do that. So we've had our first meeting with all the team leads, and that aim is, again, just to do exactly the same. And going forward, the DGE, so this year it's Heather, next year it'll be myself. I'll lead or work with the assistant governors, and the DGN, so it'll be Jim Hatter. Next year we'll work with the team leads that are in there. One of the things I've put on there as well is under the public image, that the external public image works closely with membership. Now, it kind of goes without saying, but right across the whole team here, we need to work together. AGs need to be aware of what's happening with their clubs. And there's a big communication piece about us all working together and how we do that and how best to do that. So that covers RI requirement. We've also put on there, some of these need deputy positions. That's the ones ringed in red. So youth, obviously, for just the sheer size of things they tackle. District treasurer again, and district secretary. And I'm glad to say that Alistair Farquhar is significantly improved. I need to speak to him again and see how he's doing, but it just brought it really to the fore that when we don't have deputies working with us, what the consequence will be. And at the bottom, I've just put some of the things because I couldn't find space at the top of what the secretary looks after in there. And move forward, Heather. So some of the things that we've been looking at, and we've really kind of talked about a lot of this, the role descriptions particularly, you've all seen that, but is the content right? And if it's not, let us know and we'll go through that. We've talked about having more effective meetings, and I think by having these monthly meetings with the team leads and the monthly meetings with the AGs, that when we actually do come to the quarterly meetings, they're going to be so much more effective because we all know. And then team leads could even be excused for not going to the district meetings because we can feed in the report. And what we don't want is people just going there to say, my report is as written. That's pointless. But people will be invited if there are specific things that need to be discussed on that. So that kind of a big thing. Communication, as we talked about, working together particularly, and all saying the same message in front of the clubs. So once we've made a decision, then obviously we've got a cabinet responsibility just to carry that same message. So we're going to be talking more about it on the practicalities, as Heather said, on the 6th of March. So encourage you for any questions you have or anything that arises out of tonight, share it with us and bring it along on the 6th of March. But otherwise, the next stop is really sharing a subset of this with the Presidents-elect. It's really important we've changed this. It is Presidents-elect, and all the other club leadership will be dealt with around the Assembly. So presidents particularly at the Presidents-elect. And if you just move on. What I want to do is just take a minute at what Rotary Great Britain and Ireland. This is a complex picture, but the really thing is that circle in the middle, that they're looking at a regional board with 12 members. Currently, there's 25 district governors who change annually, so there's no continuity in it. And the whole purpose of this is to give continuity, sort out some bureaucracy, but more importantly, be able to support membership and support districts. Because everything we do and everything the organisation we showed in that last slide is all about supporting clubs and supporting members. And that's exactly what this is doing. Up in the top right, there's a thing called collaborative area groups. I'm just going to take a second on that. There's 6 groups potentially across the UK. And the one that we will probably be in is the 3 Scottish districts plus Ireland. Now, we've kind of had a hint at that for a while, and that's why the last couple of joint forums where we've done various topics, Ireland have actually been a constituent part of that. We did one just before Christmas. We did one recently involving Keep Scotland Beautiful, and we had an Irish environmentalist on that. The only thing that's going to come up at the annual business meeting is that circle in the middle. The rest of it is all to be worked through for July 22. But there will be information coming out, and I know DG Alistair's been working on that as part of the GB&I executive for that. But so we can make sure that things do what they say they're going to do. Heather and I are both on different teams working what this should be, what this should look like. So particularly I'm looking at the specialist advisor team and what they're going to do to support districts and what their responsibilities are going to be. And I think, what else have I got to cover? I think that's about it. Heather, is there another one? Leadership. We've talked about a lot of this. It's about communication and two-way communication. It's about our creativity. Our creativity as a whole team. And as David said earlier, let's think of what could be possible. What could our man on the moon and take him home be? Big thing, again, in communication is the feedback and listening to what clubs want. We talked about turning the lens round and actually asking the community what they need and what Rotary should look like, and then creating our product for that. Think positive, be positive in front of everybody, and then we'll have a great way forward. And I move on one more. If there's any questions, I'm really happy to take them.
Yeah. Questions, folks? Anything? I can't see you all, so you need to do your little electronic hands.
I'm getting away with it.
Are you really?
Well, I've either confused the hell out of them or have explained it well. I'm not sure which.
Right, guys, I'm just going to rattle on then. Ken was asking for questions about his bit. I'm generally now asking for questions either in the chat or just before I go into this next section, either in the chat, because I'm going to save the chat. Sorry, John's making me laugh. Because we thought Jim Hatter was going to be here, so John's offering to be Jim Hatter. There was just something really amused me about that, sorry. So any questions about anything tonight, but also I'm going to talk about, you know, sort of practicalities and what we'd be looking to happen between now and the 6th and the items for the 6th, but any burning questions for now? If they're not big enough to sort of say, if you pop them in the chat, I'm going to save the chat, I'll make sure that I pick them up in the next session. Anything at all? Nope. Good. Ken, you can't have a question.
No, I'm going to make a statement before we go on. Before we get to the end, we will want feedback on this, and I'm going to stick a link to a feedback form in this. It will take you 5 minutes, no more.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, yeah, if you could fill in the evaluation, that would be great. So, thinking ahead then, as I said earlier, the whole point about having a follow-up session is so that we get time to percolate. You know, Libby was quite right. It's a lot of information to take in. A lot of everything that you need is already sitting in that Dropbox for you to peruse further at your leisure. Even if you've looked at all of it before, which you hopefully have, this will help maybe in terms of, you know, helping you to focus in more on particular areas. But specific things as well that we're looking for, so that we can pick up on those at the 6th of March session is, can you please review your role description? They're all in the Dropbox. As Ken said, any queries, let us know either between now and then or at that point, because that's the basis upon which we'll be moving forward in terms of our respective roles. It would be really helpful, following on from tonight and what we're setting out in terms of broad priorities for the district plan, if you could think about what that would mean for your own respective area of responsibility, either as an AG in terms of how you're going to support clubs, the work that you're going to do, the types of conversations that you're going to have, how you're going to bring them together and work with them in practice, for example, and for the team leaders. What does that actually look like in terms of your priorities? Bill came up with a brilliant idea there about, you know, maybe a district-wide project, that kind of thing. What are your ideas, either generally for us as district, as the whole district support team, or for your particular area of responsibility? And then we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes just to put their tuppence worth in. It will literally be 2 minutes, clock ticking, not to put the pressure on, but just to take the pressure off. It'll just be initial thinking about, you know, what are you thinking that you're going to do really going forward into the next year. As importantly, if not more so, is when you go away and reflect, if there's other stuff that you need that you haven't got from tonight and it doesn't look like you're going to get out of the 6th of March, or you just want to make sure that you know, or you want to bring to the table, please have a think about that. And if you can review the strategic plan on the back of the discussions that we had tonight, and maybe start to populate the action plan, and make sure that where I have sort of suggested that your role would lead on any of these, particularly that you're content that you want to do that, that you're able to do that, and you're happy to build that into your plans for the coming Rotary year. And any amendments to the overall strategic plan or the action plan. And clearly no plans worth having where we can't measure progress. So any suggestions about how we would do that in a way that's meaningful against the actions that we've got. So what you'll also see in the Dropbox is this. It doesn't look like this because it's just black and white in the Dropbox. And don't get carried away with this column here, the key success criteria. I've just popped those in as examples. So I've taken a screenshot. So this happens to be Bill's area, really, doesn't it? But, you know, it would be great then if Bill agreed that these were things that we wanted to support, and because they are things that fit with his area of expertise, he would be responsible. But clearly lots of others of the rest of us in the team, and that's probably not comprehensive, would be working to help him support that. But it'd be really good to make sure that Bill was advising us on what would be a good way to measure our success and our progress against those particular actions. And that's the input that we're looking for between now and the 6th, so we can make some progress towards that. I'm going to put these slides as well, sorry, in the Dropbox. I should have said that, so you'll be able to go back and review these things, particularly about what we'd like you to look at doing between now and the 6th. And yeah, I mean, it was good to get the feedback about the Dropbox. It really helps, I think, with communication, version control, sharing of information. So that's great that's useful. We will have a little think about how we might be able to use it for other meetings for the district team. There's also a separate Dropbox which the assistant governors should all have access to, which is where we're going to put the notes and the agendas for the AG meetings, anything particular to the AG role. And I think it might be quite useful to set up a team leaders one. I can't see you all, but unless anybody's saying no or frowning, I would intend to do that as well, and then you can capture the output from the monthly meetings there too. So we'll keep everything in there live and updated. It is for everyone, so feel free to add things that you've found helpful. And it's also an opportunity, of course, to develop documents and to share and edit things together so that we only get one version of it and we can work collaboratively, which is what a lot of this is about. And that's just a reminder about what's already in that Dropbox in the training resource section, including why does it say, oh yeah, because in the training resource materials, you've got the Rotary Club Health Check full, but you've also got the mini Club Health Check in there, which is the one for assistant governors, which Alistair was talking about earlier. You've got the Learning Centre, Rotary GB&I, and you've got the specific training that you will be getting offered, which I know you, like for example, the AGs have had the first session of that with Rotary GB&I already. So this is what we're thinking about for the 6th of March just now. Bit of a refresh about what we've covered, any issues or questions coming up. Bit of a 2-minute input from each of you guys, from all of us really, about what you're thinking as a result about your plans. We'll get a chance to review where we've got to in refining the strategy and the action plan for it. There's other training sessions that will take place, you know, that Ewan's running some for treasurers, Cass going to run some for secretaries, so we'll let you know when those are so that you can be helping to promote those with clubs as well. We'll get a Rotary calendar for the Rotary year ahead. We'll get a calendar for the year ahead so that we're all clear about what's happening when, and then we'll do anything else or plan other things that are just basically going to help us get absolutely raring to go and feel ready and prepared for the 21-22 Rotary year. So any questions, folks? No? This is like one of those rugby games, isn't it, when they go into extra time but people are just running the clock down? Okay, well, if there's nothing further, then I think the most entertaining part of the evening is about to come, where John Johnson transforms himself into Jim Hatter.
I haven't got a hat.
I know. I mean, he's so appropriately named, isn't he?
Wait a minute, 2 seconds.
Oh, for goodness sake. This is the problem. It's like karaoke, isn't it? You give people the stage and they just kind of throw themselves into the whole performance. Very good.
What's the Rotary equivalent?
The advantage of being in your daughter's bedroom.
Is that your daughter's hat?
It's a top hat, yes, it is indeed.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
So there you are. I'm now stunt Jim Hatter.
Okay.
Just to say thank you to you all for coming along, but more importantly to DG Heather, it was you kept it flowing really well, entertaining, and you didn't muck up any time. It was really good. You looked like you were in control. And
that
Ken
should be comforting for everybody, hopefully.
and Ken as well, to make something as exciting as the organizational chart interesting is always very difficult, but you did a great job. Thank you very much. To all of you for your questions, for all of the bits and pieces. It's important that we work this together. This is a new role for me as well, and I've found it quite entertaining. I've spoken probably to more people in the last, more Rotarians in the last maybe month and a half, 2 months than I have in the entire year before that, not including my own club. And I've found the feedback that you've given me personally very helpful, and it's something that hopefully we can work on. And it's that two-way process of ensuring that A, district listens, and B, helps where needed. And I think that's the way we need to look forward. So please remember to do your homework. I'm very, very keen to be finished before 9 o'clock. It is now 8:58. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you on the 6th. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. And thanks, John. Thanks, Ken. if you want to take 60 seconds to pop anything in the chat that you would like us to definitely cover off on the 6th of March, or any questions that you've been left with, that'll make sure we don't miss anything, and it'll also get us out of here on time, which is clearly very important of an evening. So anything else, put it in the chat, because I'm going to save that. And if you can fill in the evaluation, that'll really help us know what we could have done better and what we can still build into the further training. And can I just say, I'm really looking forward to working with you all. I hope you feel the same. I really think we can do some really good work, actually, and really turn that relationship around with clubs and work really well together. I'm really looking forward to doing that. So thank you so much for coming along.
Just a note, we will send out the link for the, oh, this is the right link is there now. So thanks, Ken, for that. Yeah. I started filling in a club health check. I didn't think that was really what we needed after this meeting, to be honest.
Sorry about that.
You're just trying to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Successful.